The smart money always moves first. Not because it's faster, but because it knows when to leave. March 9, 2023. Silicon Valley Bank holds $212 billion in assets. The 16th largest bank in America, the quiet bloodstream of thousands of startups, venture funds, and tech firms. March 10th. In just 48 hours, everything collapses. The second largest bank failure in American history. But that's not the real story. Because weeks before the headlines broke, some people had already started to move. Executives sold $84 million worth of stock. Venture funds quietly shifted their deposits elsewhere. Those with enough zeros in their accounts got a call. A polite warning: diversify your holdings. Everyone else didn't. No alert, no message. Just locked accounts and vanished businesses. This is the story of those who knew and the moment they chose silence. While the media praised innovation and promised endless growth, a small circle was already finding the exits. They saw cracks while others were building new floors. They smelled smoke while the rest were still lighting fireworks. The question was never if SVB would fall. It was who knew before it did, and what they did with that knowledge. The smart money always moves first. And in March 2023, it began to run. To understand how Silicon Valley Bank burned itself down, you have to know what it once was before the fire ever started. 1983 Silicon Valley is just starting to become the new empire of code. Apple has released the Macintosh. Money is flowing like voltage through copper wires. Startups are being born in garages that smell like dust and caffeine. But there's one problem: traditional banks don't understand any of it. They don't lend to dreamers, to people who have ideas, but no profits, only prototypes and promises. That's where Silicon Valley Bank steps in. It doesn't just take deposits. It takes faith. It speaks the language of venture capital and risk. It becomes the bank for founders, for investors, for companies that will one day reshape the world. And for 40 years it grows beside them. Through the dot-com crash. Through the financial crisis of 2008. Each collapse makes it stronger, more confident, more untouchable. By 2023, it holds $212 billion in assets and over 40,000 clients. Every major startup, every fund, every name that matters, they all bank here. Because in Silicon Valley, you don't choose a bank, you join a system. But beneath that success, a quiet flaw was forming, one that would later consume everything it built, and the people running SVB, they saw it. They knew what was coming. Between 2020 and 2022, the world drowned in cheap money. Tech was untouchable. Investors called it the new era. Startups raised billions on slides, slogans, and faith. And Silicon Valley Bank became the vault for all of it. Every deposit from a founder's pitch, every round from a venture fund, it all flowed through the same bloodstream, VB. Billions coming in every month. And the bank needed to do something with it. Cash doesn't grow by sitting still. So they bought bonds. Long-term, low-yield government securities. The kind that look safe until the math changes. 10 years. 15 years, 20 years. They made one bet, that interest rates would stay low forever. They were wrong. When the Federal Reserve started raising rates in 2022, that bet began to bleed. Because when rates go up, bonds lose value. It's not theory, it's arithmetic. SVB was now sitting on billions in hidden losses. $15 billion gone on paper. But only on paper. As long as they didn't sell, they could still pretend everything was fine, and they did. The reports looked stable. The statements sounded confident. The illusion held for a while, but illusions don't protect balance sheets. And the people at the top knew exactly what those numbers meant. February 2023. The numbers don't look dangerous yet, but the people reading them know exactly what they mean. Greg Becker, the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, has been there long enough to recognize a storm before it forms. He knows the bonds are bleeding. He knows the regulators have warned them. He knows how fragile confidence can be. So he sells. On February 27th, Becker dumps $3.6 million worth of stock. Legally. Conveniently. A pre-planned trade. At least, that's what the paperwork says. 12 days later, the bank would collapse. Had he waited, those shares would be worthless. But he didn't wait. He cashed out just in time, and he wasn't alone. Executives followed. Directors. Senior managers. One by one, the people closest to the fire quietly stepped back. $84 million sold in the final weeks. A liquidation disguised as coincidence. They said it was routine. They said they didn't know. But their timing said everything. While they were selling, venture capital firms began to whisper. Founders Fund, Sequoia, Bessemer, all moving money out, quietly, efficiently, without a word to the public. And for those with enough zeros in their accounts, there were phone calls. Soft warnings. Friendly advice. Move now. Don't ask questions. But for startups, small businesses, employees, there was nothing. No warning, no hint. Just silence. The kind that comes right before the floor gives out. March 9, 2023, the illusion finally cracks. Silicon Valley Bank announces it's selling its entire bond portfolio. Nearly $2 billion in losses in one move. The market reacts like blood in the water. SVB stock drops 20%. Then 30. Then 40. The whispers become shouts. Founders start calling each other. Slack channels light up. Twitter melts down. Should we move our money? The question spreads faster than the answer. By noon, the exodus begins. Venture firms tell their portfolio companies to withdraw, not tomorrow, now. Every founder is suddenly a risk manager. Every startup is suddenly a stampede. $42 billion pulled in one day. A quarter of all deposits, gone before sunset. This isn't panic. This is precision. A coordinated retreat executed with the calm of people who knew exactly what to do. And SVB? It doesn't have the cash. No bank does, because in modern banking money doesn't sit. It circulates until someone tries to take it all back at once. By evening, the lines blur between digital and disaster. Transfers fail, accounts freeze. The run is unstoppable. March 10, 2023, the bank doesn't open. California regulators seize control. The FDIC steps in. In less than 48 hours, the 16th largest bank in America ceases to exist. 8,000 employees, 40,000 clients. $212 billion in assets evaporated. When the dust settled, the pattern was clear. The insiders got out, the rest were left to burn. Greg Becker, $3.6 million, sold 2 weeks before collapse. Safe, untouched. The executives who followed him, $84 million, secured and sealed. Their losses were theoretical. Their profits, real. The venture funds, Founders Fund, Sequoia, Bessemer, all had already moved their money. Their portfolio companies followed. The ones who got the call survived. The ones who didn't. Startups missed payroll, employees lost savings. Small businesses vanished overnight. But for the ones who mattered, there was a safety net. March 13, 2023, the U.S. government steps in. Every depositor, insured or not, will be made whole. A full bailout. A rescue dressed as stability. They called it a systemic risk exception. What it really meant, some companies were too connected to fail. Because their collapse wouldn't just shake confidence, it would reveal who was pulling the strings. Taxpayers would absorb the damage. Investors would keep their capital. Executives would keep their millions. Greg Becker would testify before Congress weeks later, apologetic, measured, unmoved. He didn't offer to return the money. No one asked him to. And that silence said everything. The investigations began and went nowhere. The CSA opened a case. No charges. No arrests. Just statements and silence. Because insider trading is hard to prove. You have to prove they knew. You have to prove they acted on it, and they don't leave fingerprints. They leave paperwork clean, timed, and legal. Rule 10b-5 to 1 trading plans. The perfect loophole. Executives schedule their stock sales months in advance. So when the timing looks suspicious, they point to the calendar and walk away. Greg Becker did. So did the board. So did every insider who cashed out before the collapse. Coincidence, they said. Routine, pre-planned, and the system agreed. Because the same institutions that investigate them depend on them. The regulators who missed the warnings will later work for the banks they were supposed to monitor. The politicians who promise oversight take donations from the same firms that need watching. It's not corruption. It's infrastructure. Every time a bank fails, the story plays out the same way. Insiders sell. The public panics. The government steps in. The cycle resets. And when it's over, everyone says the same thing. This will never happen again. Until it does. History doesn't repeat. It evolves. 2008 Lehman Brothers collapses under the weight of its own greed. Its CEO, Dick Fuld, cashes out over $500 million before the crash. When the dust settles, employees lose their pensions. Shareholders lose everything. Dick Fuld keeps his money, no charges, no prison. Just another apology. 2001 Enron burns itself alive in the glow of false profits. Executives Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling sell over $1 billion in stock while telling employees to buy more. When the fraud implodes, workers lose $7 billion in retirement savings. The men who built the lie walk away first. 1929, the Great Crash. Joseph Kennedy sees the mania before the fall. He sells his entire portfolio months before the market breaks. When the panic hits, he bets against America and makes millions. The myth calls him lucky. The truth calls him early. Different decades, different faces, same choreography. Step 1. Insiders see the problem. Step 2. They protect themselves. Step 3. The collapse. Step 4. Denial. Step 5. Investigation without consequence. Step 6. Reset. Step 7. Promise reform. Step 8. Repeat. Each time, the same people win, and the same people pay, because the system doesn't punish awareness, it punishes delay. The first to move survive. The rest become the lesson. It's 2025, the headlines have moved on. The system hasn't. Regional banks across America are sitting on the same problem SVB had, bonds underwater. Losses hidden behind quarterly reports. And executives smiling for the cameras while quietly selling stock. The filings are public if you know where to look. Form 4, Insider Transactions. The numbers don't lie, they just whisper. Executives are selling again. Not in panic. In rhythm. A few thousand shares here, a few 100,000 there. Small enough to ignore, large enough to matter. It's the same choreography, the same subtle migration of the smart money. They'll call it profit-taking. They'll call it portfolio rebalancing. And when the next collapse comes, they'll call it unexpected. But nothing about this is unexpected. It's a system rehearsed so many times that even the disasters feel procedural. The only question left is, are you watching the signs this time, or are you waiting for the floor to disappear again? Because the smart money is already moving. And it's not running from danger, it's running from you. If you're the kind of person who wants to see the cracks before they become canyons, subscribe. Because by the time it hits the news, it's already too late.